Rosie Duffield becomes the first Labour MP to resign. Welcome to Riks Europe, Dr Heather Brunskell-Evans.
Hello, thank you for having me.
So this has created a lot of headlines. Could you give us some insights to the controversy surrounding Rosie Duffield? Because this happened shortly after the Labour win as well, and I understand she's accused Labour of quite a few things. Could you tell us more about this?
Well, yes, I can. She has accused Labour of lots of things, and she's actually resigned from the Labour Party. Her letter of resignation doesn't mention the issue of transgender identity at all, although Rosie Duffield has achieved a certain notoriety in the Labour Party for having criticised the Labour policies on gender identity, and she was targeted for that, and she wasn't supported at all by Keir Starmer. That was when he was the leader of Labour, when they were in opposition. Now they are the governing party. She has resigned from Labour, but in her letter of resignation, she literally makes no mention whatsoever of the transgender issue. She mentions a number of other things which I can go into, and then perhaps draw it back to the issue of gender identity, if you like.
Because what are the things that she's accused Labour of?
Well, she's saying that the Labour Party is a party of people who desire social justice, and they support people in need. And she frames the whole letter in the context of the ethics of the Labour Party being the party of oppressed people. And so everything else follows from that. She's accusing Starmer of being out of touch, that he's a manager and a technocrat rather than a leader and a politician. And she makes mention of the fact that he didn't go through the usual processes of being a backbencher himself before he became the leader. And she says that he is completely out of touch with backbench MPs, and he's completely out of touch with their constituency members. So that's one thing. She goes on to say that he's revealed himself to be hypocritical. He has received a number of gifts and so on, luxury items, and yet at the same time he is depriving the general population of the financial support that they need. And the example she uses is not of the winter fuel allowance for older people, which has been very alive in British media in the past couple of weeks, but she mentions that he hasn't rescinded the Tory government's policy that only families with 2 children get support for those children. So that's the example that she uses. And then she accuses him of being a sort of self-serving and actually quite cowardly. And she doesn't mention herself in relation to the way that he was extremely cowardly, if that's the word one wants to use, in relation to Duffield herself when she was being attacked, receiving rape threats, being excluded from Labour Party meetings. He didn't support her, and as far as I know, didn't even contact her privately to offer support. The example she uses is of Diane Abbott, a sort of somebody who's been a stalwart of the Labour Party for years and years and years, and interestingly, a black female MP, which he has not supported in the attacks that she has received. And the last thing that she talks about in terms of his cowardliness is that when she doesn't mention the previous leader of the Labour Party, but when Keir Starmer supported Jeremy Corbyn and didn't support those Labour MPs who felt that rightly or wrongly, in my opinion, whether the Labour Party was riven with anti-Semitism. She was one of the MPs that did stand up for anti-Semitism, or against anti-Semitism, and now he's changed his tune again. So he's very much a friend of Israel. He's very much supporting Israel's policy at the moment, or approach to the war. And so all in all, she is saying that he is cowardly. In effect, he's going with wherever the wind blows in order to retain his place. And so he's a career politician rather than a strong, ethical leader.
And what would you say what has been the reaction to her words, to her letter?
Well, to my knowledge, apart from those people who have supported her in the past, I mean, the vast amount of people, largely women, but some men, who supported her position on gender identity, who are supporting her and commenting on social media, there's almost a silence in the Labour Party itself for her letter. It's just, or it's been let off. It hasn't been brought onto the agenda, and therefore, I suspect the majority of people don't even know that she has resigned, unless they're the kind of people who have their ear to the ground about Rosie Duffield and the issues she's been involved with in the past. But yeah, I was going to give my own opinion of the Labour Party at that point, but that's probably not what you want to hear.
Well, I wanted to ask how you would describe the political climate surrounding Rosie Duffield's stance on women's rights and trans issues, as you've been mentioning. Has it shifted significantly in recent years?
Within the Labour Party, do you mean? Oh, yes. So when Rosie Duffield was bravely talking out about gender identity, she was cancelled. And by the word cancelled in the Labour Party, she wasn't thrown out of the Labour Party, but her strong stance was marginalised in the ways that I've just described before. She wasn't given a platform to speak about them, and she was not contacted by Keir Starmer for the amount of backlash that she had to her position. So yeah, she has been very brave about it. And at that particular time, Keir Starmer, who was very weak about this because there was a strong trans ally lobby within the Labour Party, he seemingly didn't know that a woman was an adult human female, and he seemingly didn't even know what a cervix is. And given that he is the father of children, I imagine that he has some familiarity with women's reproductive anatomy, but he declared that that some people can be women who don't actually have a cervix, i.e. male-born people, i.e. men. So I think he's, again, according to Duffield, and I think she's right about this, the climate about this, the political and the social climate, generally speaking, has moved away from that rigid, nonsensical position. And the general public, I think, is getting behind the idea that it's not unkind or wrong to say that only women have cervixes and that women need single-sex spaces for themselves. So Starmer is going along with this now. He hasn't publicly declared that he's going along with it, but nor is he making gaffes like the previous ones, that not all women are possessors of cervixes. So I don't know whether you've seen on social media, there's he in his commentary on Israel, and the tensions between Israel and Iran, which are ongoing at this very moment in time that we're speaking, he was hugely behind Israel in escalating the war in terms of what Starmer calls its self-defense, but he used the term she to describe Israel. So there are lots of comments on social media at the moment that whilst he can't use she for an adult human female unambiguously, he can't use that term, but he's using she for a country at the moment. So his hypocrisies are being pointed to by various people. But if we get back to Rosie Duffield, although I admire her stance, I'm not sure how much impact it will have had on the Labour Party itself. I wish it were more publicised.
Thank you so much, Dr. Heather Brunskell-Evans, for being here today.
Thank you.
And thank you for watching Riks Europe.